Hello, everybody. I am just waiting for my co-host to join.
Oh, snap, look at me. I'm in there.
Sandra, if you request to be go live, then everybody will see you. And I believe there is an ASL interpreter uh, on their way as well. So we're just going to start here in a second. And I am just waiting for Sandra to join. Give me a request to join, and hopefully the ASL interpreter as well comes. And let's see, what time is it? It is 4:04. We are probably going to try to do this in an hour, but Tiffy and I have tried to do things in an hour before, and I don't think that we have ever um, gotten to that. Yeah, I don't think it's ever been less than 2 hours, but we will definitely try. Yeah, that is our goal. And okay, Sandra is here,
Definitely.
and hopefully the ASL interpreter requests as well, and then we'll have like 4 equal boxes.
Hello.
Okay, so what we're gonna do, hopefully the ASL interpreter comes, but you guys look stunning today.
Thank you.
And are there captions? Are there captions?
If there are, I don't see them.
I'm
I
not
don't know how to do
sure.
them.
I don't know if we can see that from our side.
Yo, we are
I don't see them.
something else. Is
Okay.
there captions?
Does anybody see captions?
Yeah, the whole thing, the whole 15 minutes is going to be us trying to figure out if there's captions.
It took me 5 minutes to get on.
Like, yeah. Oh, man.
Okay, so okay, nobody sees the captions. So let me see if I can change that. Nope, I cannot. This is definitely one of the.
Nobody sees this. Oh, my
There's
bestie's
like
on
man
here,
captions.
everybody.
So,
Okay, so
maybe we can add them at the.
yeah, we'll have to add them until the ASL interpreter requests a spot. So what we're gonna do is introduce ourselves.
Yes.
I am TJ, otherwise known as the slightly better Tiffany in the bunch. But you can call me TJ for short. And so if you don't know me, I write on the social media platforms under NI Functioning Autism, which is making fun of functioning labels, and it is actually a play on words. It's not. I do not agree with functioning labels as a lot of people think. But if you think my name, it's too late. I'm stuck with this. So I was diagnosed as on the autism spectrum. We don't say Asperger's anymore, but that's what it was back then. And I was 19, first year in college kind of thing. And since then, I've had autistic children, and I have 2 different views of this world of autism. coming from first being autistic myself and kind of being I want to say uninitiated person in this space, because when you become a parent in this space, everything is very different.
Mm.
So that's my story. I also have epilepsy, OCD, ADHD, and I talk about all that stuff. And Sandra.
I was going to let the other Tiffy go.
Not.
Okay.
I don't want to go after TJ. She
No,
shots fired. Shots fired. I'm angry. I don't even know I'm alive right now. I don't even know why. My feelings are hurt. I'm feeling hurt right now.
All right. I wasn't expecting to go next. My name is Sandra. I am the writer, podcaster, teacher, narrative therapy practitioner, somatic attachment practitioner. And on social, I am nd.narratives, narratives, neurodivergent narratives. And I do a lot of writing about neurodiversity and intersectionality, how that all plays out. And I just write my thoughts and see how they land when I'm writing about neurodivergence. I have a list of letters, diagnosis behind my name too, or with my name as well. ADHD, OCD, dyspraxia, and y'all can hear it here first. Yesterday, I was diagnosed with autism. Yes, just yesterday, at in my early 40s. So we'll put it there. Yesterday. So I'm hoping to bring a little bit of a different, not different, but just another side to this conversation today as somebody who just had to go through this process, a diagnosis so late in life. Yes, actually later in life, in my 40s, diagnosed autism yesterday. So yeah, and I will pass it over to the other Tiffany. Go ahead.
You mean the better Tiffany?
I'm not getting in between you two. I'm not.
You already between us.
True that. I love you both. I can't choose. I won't choose.
That's okay. We'll talk in DMs. You can admit the true feelings.
Go on then.
So, we'll hunt it out.
Go on then.
Alrighty. So I'm Tiffany. Tiffy. Or Tiff. I go by all three. I am the writer behind Fidgets and Fries. I was diagnosed at 18. It was suspected earlier, but first year of college with mom, kind of everything just kind of fell apart. And then, 2 kids, same diagnosis. I ain't good with intros, so that's it.
That's a lie. That is a lie. I just called you out.
I don't like writing them either. So like that's me in a nutshell. There's me, Tiffany, Fidgets and Fries. I talk about a lot of stuff, the intersections of disability, race, autism, storyteller, all kinds of stuff,
Oh yeah, and your book is coming out. Your book's coming out. For my book's coming out.
Well, yeah.
We both have books coming out, but yours is coming out soon.
I might have a book coming out. I don't. I just want to feel.
Oh. We still love you. Go on, Ed.
Why are we like this?
Why are we like this? Because we didn't practice it beforehand. That's the thing. We haven't met in 3 of us beforehand in face-to-face. I think this is a big part. Because we're so excited to even just see each other.
Very first time, all 3 of us all together on a live. Instead of being together in a DM, basically talking a hot load of mess about the stuff that we see, which is why we decided we was gonna take it from the DMs and put it all up here, right here
Amen.
in your face. And
Yeah.
that's why y'all here today. And yeah, and we hope this is going to be like the start of many series, because there's a lot of things to talk about that we will not
Oh
be
my
able to cover
God.
in one live. But yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not,
I do want to note that I use my mouth words and AAC, and I will be switching off.
Yeah.
Um,
That's fun. Yeah, of
so
course.
here's the introduction.
Yeah.
Hi all, thank you so much for coming. I do want to add a trigger warning that we will be discussing violence and inner living feelings from how society treats Black and / or disabled people. We will try to get to every question at the end, but may not have time to do so. Rest assured, we will be doing this series called ABA is. On a monthly basis in 2023 and possibly beyond. If you want your question answered by the hosts, ask your question in the question box near the plus sign. If you want to ask to the community and other viewers, ask in the comments section. We would love if you guys buy badges. It will be split up equally between us three. It helps support us to create more discussions like this and content where we can take deeper dives along with the small nuggets we put in shorter form posts. Now, the reason we called this emergency meeting, so to speak, is because we have seen so many people disguise their hate, judgment, and supremacist ideals off as advocacy. But one recent post stuck out to us in a sea of horrifying posts as the most judgmental, unhelpful, and shockingly cruel post of all of them.
Am I reading the post now? Yeah, I will. I won't say who it's from, but or by, but it's shocking because we're not there about who it's by. It's just what it was. ABA is abuse, period. If ABA is court-ordered, then it is court-ordered abuse. If ABA is your, quote, quote, only option for childcare, then your only option for childcare is abuse. There is no nuance to this discussion. There is no situation when ABA is not abusive. Abuse. Sorry, not abusive, abuse. The gentle, quote, quote, ABA is still emotional abuse and coercion, even if your child is never physically manhandled or harmed. Your child is being trained to comply with whatever authority figure is making demands of them without question. Refusal is not an option. Consent is not required. Compliance is mandatory. That post came out November 13th this year. So last month.
The reason why this is so hard is because after saying people have no choices, it was still called abusive. And I'm going to stick to AC.
It's cruel. Do you really think it's helpful to tell someone who is already struggling that they are abusing their child when they are given no choice? How is this at all helpful? You think your words do not matter as an advocate in this community? I want to talk about my admin role in a Black autism parents group and the role many, of course, not all, white autistic advocates do to fuel misery in the parent community, which absolutely hurts the autistic people they say they care for. So for more context, I was in a group a year or so before the pandemic started. It wasn't a large group then, but the person who started it needed help and asked for more admins. The two people that stepped up were me and a Black autistic man who is a non-speaking autistic child. As the group grew more, we needed to add more admins, which I will talk more about later. It was during my time adminning that I learned the depths of the desperation many families, especially families of color, are experiencing. I won't name names, but too many times, parents have left some of these so-called advocate spaces looking for help and only were made to feel so badly, they wanted to end it all. I mean it. The depths of desperation is exactly what it means. End it all. For themselves and their autistic loved ones. It would be the same few advocates that swear we are tone policing them when we say, hey yo chill.
Yes.
You are doing such harm in MY in all capital letters, community.
My.
I would then have to explain how having any choices is a privilege that almost zero families have in this society, even if wealthy and white and resource rich in their states.
Mm-hmm.
When you are coming at poor families and families of color, you are talking about not only no choices, but so many nuanced reasons why they are doing what they are doing.
Mm.
And they come into this disability space, whether right or wrong, thinking they are supposed to be grieving and are already overwhelmed with family members, school, and medical professionals telling them they are harming their children. They come to us as autistic people hoping to get some real answers. But so many people run them off from getting any help or run them toward toxic parent groups who will validate them and then give them all of the bad. If people cared about the autistic person in these situations, I have some questions. How does running families to the people who you believe are ableist help the autistic person in their care? And how does making them feel so bad about their lives and choices that they no longer want to be alive help the autistic people here? There is too much damn projection that happens in this community. You know parents or had parents yourself that caused you trauma. I am so sorry. Nobody ever deserves to have that happen to them, and sorry you had to go through that. But that has absolutely nothing to do with the families or caregivers you are talking to. Are some of them causing their kids trauma unintentionally? Of course, I grew up in the same ableist society as everyone else, including you. And I know for a fact none of you as advocates came to this space knowing everything. You definitely didn't come here knowing everything you now know.
Yeah.
Small square yet. The assumption is that everyone else should know. And not just know, they should know your brand of what there is to know. And if
Yes.
they don't instantly agree with your sworn standpoint, then that person is irredeemable and no longer worthy of the minimum respect nor benefit that they are doing the best they could and will surely do better over time.
TJ, drop in the facts. Nothing. Okay, everyone, live's over.
I was trying to figure out why I'm here. Why am I here?
I'm like, live's over, everybody. Thanks for coming. TJ just said it all. I just got to put out, like, when reading that post, like, that post got shared 125 times. It got likes about 483 likes, but it got shared 125 times. Jesus Christ. I don't like, where do you want to start? I'm thinking about, like, you know, Tiffy, did you have anything to add on that post that I just read as well? Anything that kind of stuck out for you when you saw it first?
Good? You mean good? No, nothing
No,
good.
not good.
Yeah, the whole thing was bad.
Oh,
It
man.
was the part that threw me was they said there's no nuance to this, and I'm sitting here and I'm trying to figure out everything is nuanced. All people are nuanced. You, me, everyone. And you want to sit here and you want to talk about something in this community that a lot of people, whether they're choosing to do it or whether they have no choice to do it, that there's no nuance here. That is what completely floored me there. And to sit there and think, I'm sitting here and I'm trying to think about all the stuff that my family has gone through. Like, we had CPS called on us because my son didn't wear socks.
That's the story I was just thinking of.
Yo, and I'm sitting here and I got a CPS worker all in my fridge and all in my drawers and all in my under their beds, all in my house, running through their underwear, running through my fridge to see if we have enough food for them, for socks, y'all. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, what? And the papers that they give back after they dismiss the case was at that time it wasn't an order, it was a suggestion that he be in an ABA program to help him reduce these types of behaviors and thus reduce these calls. Right? So I'm like sitting here, at this time it was a suggestion. So what happens when it's a doggone order? And so I'm sitting here and I'm reading this post, and because this isn't like an isolated event, there's a whole lot of families that's going on with this. You know, there's a whole lot of families that have kids who are self-injurious, and they go into school with scratch marks and bruises and stuff, and their parents are being accused of abusing their kids. Or if they can find out,
you can't say, I did this myself. So who
exactly.
who are they going to look at? The parents. And the desperation that follows after that kind of interaction with social services.
Exactly.
Police eventually. Or it can start, like for me, eloping almost always starts with police interaction. And if you don't get your child, then if you're not watching your child, then what are you doing? When typical children run or, try to cross the city, on foot, So it always looks bad on the parents. And what happens?
Particularly if you're Black.
Always.
Particularly if you're Black.
That entire post, though, when I read it, it felt like a big old giant shots fired at not only myself, but you and others who have brought up these same types of points. It was a bullet point list of every single thing that we have talked about. If you're doing this court order, we talked about that before.
Nuance.
We wrote about that before. Then it's abuse. If you
nuance.
If that's the only option that you have, we've talked about that before. For a lot of parents, it's the only option for them, especially if they have to work and stuff. And those are the things that we talked about before too. So then they're saying that's abuse. So going down every single bullet point that we have made either recently or in the past, and then throwing in word that there's no nuance here, felt like straight up attack central by someone who is unaware of the lives of the people that they are trying to advocate for. Who they speak for, not me. Who they trying to fight for, not my kids. If that's what you feel like is the best advocacy that you can do, I don't want it. My kids is good. We got this. But
I would that type of advocate to stay away from my community. Any BIPOC people, I want you away from them because you have no idea the harm you're doing saying stuff like that.
This makes me think about like when Aiden was in crisis last year and how long you had to wait, Tiffy, to finally reach out to TJ and I to be like, okay, like this is like we are in a bad spot right now. And in that point of like wondering like, well, if it wasn't like I wasn't doing ABA, we took him out of it, but like there was, what else was there? Like, what other options were there? And being in a spot where like, everyone can say ABA is abuse, blah, 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 but like, okay, but then what? And anything else, everything else that is ever like thrown around there, offered these lists of like, everybody should do like, speech therapy or like OT or, and it's just
or
like
some other option that's not covered by their insurance that they will never be able to afford. Or
even if it was,
they get through ABA. Like there are some places where the ABA centers are where they get 4 hours of speech every week and 4 hours of OT every week, and they're lumped into the ABA, the comprehensive full-time ABA, the ABA program. Whereas if they had to go outside of that, they'd be lucky to get 1 hour a week of the same things that you guys are yelling at people to do this instead of that, but this is where they get that. So it confuses people, and you lose credibility when you don't know these things, and you just say, "Don't do this, do
They
this."
Yeah.
got it.
And
Don't
then,
do this, but do that.
They don't have to think about nobody else's life because the default is them. That's their
I,
they are the
we'll talk about
standards.
that. We'll talk about
Everything
that.
else is surrounding them all the time. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, yeah, like Aiden was in major crisis
It
last
was
year
bad.
for so many months, and it took me so many months to reach out. And I'm sitting here and they're like, go do speech. My son can't even access speech. You know how many we have done 56 speech evaluations since he was 2, and I think he's only had 4 speech therapists in his whole life, because the rest either didn't want to help him, or they felt he was too severe to help, or they discharged him because he wasn't making any progress. Same thing with OT. He couldn't access those things. But you know, the people that was actually willing to try and help my son was ABA therapists that I reached out to that need help right now. Like I my son is in a hospital right now, and I need help. And I gotta see in the back of my head thinking about, dang, all these people gonna attack me because I'm trying to help my son. It's the last option, and I have nothing else. And I'm sitting here and I'm letting these people get into my head, and my son is like hurting.
Yeah, hurting.
Hard.
It was
There's
bad.
not a lot of options here. I'm in the middle of freaking Texas, West Texas. Sorry, y'all, I'm over here crying. And
It was bad.
it was just like,
It was bad.
by yourself, and this community just dogs on you, and you feel like you're alone. And we had access to nothing, and the only people that helped me was ABA therapists trying to help me behind the scenes and DMs with what I could do, how can, and that's how it is for a lot of families. That's all that they have, and you sit there and my kid couldn't go daycare, but what daycare? No,
Okay.
no, my
Yeah.
kid couldn't do daycare. He couldn't. They wouldn't allow him there. So the only thing that a lot of these parents have is school while they're at school, so that they can work, so that they can provide for their families, or an ABA center.
And like this is actually a good point to put in too. Like, what exactly is ABA? Like that's the other thing as well, is like, even the behavioral science is there's so much to it. And he's saying, like, as well, of like, oh, some of these parents either have ABA or school. It's like, why are we talking like school does not use ABA all the time or exclude? Like, like it's everywhere. When you guys start talking about that, like, oh no, ABA is everywhere, that really like opened up my
They
own
wild
eyes.
me out with that, because they're like, let's get rid of it, let's eradicate, let's bring it to the ground. I'm like, man, it's in the schools. Like, let's bring it to the ground.
Of course.
Come on. Let's go. Let's go. And I'm sitting and I'm like, how? It's in the schools. It's in the education. It's in weight loss programs. It's everywhere.
It's in our own heads.
Where? So do you want to get rid of schools too? Because then, dang, you're getting rid of every option that people have. It's there.
OTs use it. Speech therapists use it. Like, everybody.
Speech therapists, they use it on my kids.
OTs use it.
They like it.
That it's not used like as in tactics in other places, but many sports teams, medical schools, they literally have ABA, BCBAs on staff to basically use behavioral science on their athletes. So they are they're using it in a way that's not attached to autism. It doesn't always be, ABA is not always attached to
it's not.
No, it's not.
It's everywhere. My husband is a prison warden. Every single time an employee leaves, they do an exit interview. with a work psychologist or something. So they leave so that they can try and figure out what they can do better next time to keep people, right? So it's everywhere. It's what they can change in their company or their agency to try and retain employees. And so it's not just, it's in marketing. It's like, so I'm just like, it's in every little bit of everything that we do and come into contact with. We ABA ourselves.
Yes. And like we ABA our kids, you know, like
So
we also
like,
want our kids to be doing shit, you know, the way that we want them to, you know,
we
and
ABA
even
ourselves.
we are doing it. We
It's what it is.
ABA ourselves, like literally. And this isn't saying that ABA can't be abusive. Okay. This is not saying, I don't think any one of us are saying that.
We're not supportive of ABA, of the ABAI, of most of the therapy. In fact, we are not supporters of that. We're trying to say that the fighting that you are doing needs to be taken to the system and not the individual families. If you see something wrong, it's not the families that can help with it. All they know is that they better, they either better because they have
anything can be abusive,
or those threats are always in the back of their head. And so they think, okay, well, what can I do to solve this issue? Well, you know, there's something that people will send them to and or make them get. And they can't do anything about that. We should be going to the system.
Yeah.
We should be protesting the system. We should be fighting how humans have to mask. You know, we should be fighting that. Yelling at each other, yelling at families, it's just doing too much harm.
You think the thing is that we'll always, I will never understand is like we within our own community, like we're fighting each other. Like if you're going to put out posts about like this inflammatory, it's like you're fighting ourselves. It's like we are not each other's enemy here. We shouldn't be each other's enemy within our own community. And if your advocacy is not bringing people together, then it's off. It's wrong. It's wrong, period. Like, I do not think that we are not we need to be bringing our community together, not dividing it. And I think with posts like this, it's all division, period. Like,
it seems like cruelty is the point of that post. I don't understand how anybody could see anything helpful about that. I don't understand. It feels like it was meant to be cruel.
You know,
it was definitely meant to be cruel, and it was meant to be pointed and directed and targeted towards us. It was meant to shame parents. It was meant to insult us, and it was meant to try to dismantle the arguments that we are putting forth. It had intended consequences. They were trying to actually accomplish something with that. They were trying to ABA us.
You know what? I was going to that part, you know, because when you look at this and the arguments of like what they're saying, you know, if it's court ordered, well, like, let's look at the bigger picture here. Is why is the court ordering ABA or everything else? What's that for? What's the point of that? Like, we got to look at the bigger picture behind these like arguments of like, oh, it's court-ordered abuse, or it's your only option of childcare. Okay, we need to look at, what's happening in our communities or in this world that we have only one option of childcare, and that's ABA. Why is that happening? How come our society's that?
Right.
These sorts of things are part of the big. No, go on. I was just going to say, it's like, this is what we're talking about, have always been talking about. I would say one more thing is like, what always gets me about these ABA's abuse posts or whatnot, and like, let's dismantle it, burn it down, whatever the fuck, they say all the time, is that these people do not do the work to dismantle their own like internalized ableism, do the stuff to support like Black autistics, Black disabled autistic, non-speaking, minimally speaking autistic. They do not do the work for anyone that is marginalized in this community. And the whole irony of it is that ABA is used to make us all closer to the dominant culture, which is whiteness, which is against, Blackness. So if you are against ABA, like you should be like doing a hell of a lot more for a Black community, for Black autistics, for Black non-speaking autistics, for non-speaking, minimally speaking autistics who are like the most marginalized here. Like, how can you say ABA is abuse and not be doing this work for your most marginalized in this community? Make it make sense. It doesn't. And this is why I'm getting all fired up about white autistics, white people leading advocacy. I didn't want to get there already, but like, holy sugar.
I want to make a point that I have seen about the whole daycare. Whenever I bring up, they kick autistic people out even before they're allowed to get in there. But then if they are in there, they'll kick the kids out anyway. And
Amen.
It is against the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, but there are so many loopholes. All they do is use a loophole very easily and say, well, your kid causes a danger to the other kids and they can't come back. And immediately they can't come back, leaving parents with nothing, high and dry. I said something earlier that even having ABA is kind of a privilege because the wait lists are so long. If you live in a rural area, there are almost no places for you to go. If you don't have a car, you really can't get there in a rural area whatsoever.
Exactly.
You need to work and you're just instantly dropped off your job because the daycare did not take your child. You really have no choice. You have even less choices than ABA. And a lot of advocates will say, well, so you're saying you're going to go make money? That's all you want to do is make money? I'm going to feed my child. I promise you, you would have a lot worse things. So I really do have to work because the child or whoever, the loved one, can be an adult. They have to eat. They need housing. They need all kinds. So yes, we do have to work. It's not just to make money. Everybody knows we live in a society where we are forced through capitalism to work.
And you also please let's understand too about stuff like CPS, like Child Protective Services. Like, it is made to destroy Black and brown communities. That's the purpose of it in Indigenous communities. You look at the numbers of children in this Canada, this States, I've even put bets on it. It's in the UK as well. You put the numbers of, you could have a predominantly white neighborhood and you would still see that the kids that have been taken by CPS or, families that have been destroyed by CPS are Black and brown families, predominantly Indigenous families. Always.
Yeah.
It is made for that. So we're looking out for this. So if you're saying, oh, but you should work, you shouldn't have to work and look after your kid. Well, I can't feed my kid.
Right.
Then CPS is on my ass faster than he's on your white ass. Okay? This is it. This is the facts. There's no nuance in that. You're right. There is no nuance in that. Oh, that's just facts. Okay, there we go. So this sort of thing, just there's so much there that is not even, they got no even, I don't even know the words. There's someone else talk. I'm done now. I'm done with that. I'm over it. I said it.
I mean, that's just what it is, though. They don't think about what comes after that. They just say something, few words, buzzwords. I solved it all. This same person made a post about every time I see an ABA ad, I report it for abuse. I'm like, man, that is banging ass activism right there. You are
now we're done.
that
End
is
of the line.
that should be
Banging ass
defined
out.
as Blacktivism.
Slacktivism.
Yes.
I was just like, I'm flabbergasted because I'm like, okay, let's say a parent comes on here and they listen to you. They say, oh, a court order that I have to do ABA for my son. A court ordered it. But this stranger on the internet said it was abusive, so I'm not gonna do it. So then what? What happens now? What happens now? What happens to that family? Like right there. And so it's just sitting there, but you're not thinking about the things that would occur for these people who don't have as many options that you might have, that someone else might have. You know, and so it's a privilege to have choices. You know, even if they're not the best choices, like our lives are like a series of bad or not as bad choices, but it's what we have. And to advocate for that, to put people into corners like that without actually trying to fight these actual systems that would give us these lack of choices is beyond like my comprehension. It's like y'all just want to talk to talk, you know.
That's it.
Want to shout to shout,
that's
but you
it.
don't want to do nothing.
I can name about 5, 6, 10 white autistics that are like that just want to basically just sound bites. Sorry,
Yeah.
you mean that?
They are using, like, I don't know what it's called, like shock and awe for views. And this is obviously, we're not talking about all. We're not talking about all.
Can we keep, please, people? Yes.
The top creators, most happen to be white, that are really causing a lot of strife, distress in our communities for no reason. And I don't say distress lightly. I mean people unaliving themselves.
Yes. I could just remember, like, it was bad. Like, when I'm just new in the community, only the last, few years, I don't say very much, especially since, I didn't, my diagnosis just came yesterday. Keep saying that because I'm still sitting with that. It's pretty huge for me, but I still remember, like, and we've been in this community for years, and it shouldn't have had to go down the way that it went down with Aiden last year. Like, that shouldn't have had to happen. Right. That someone who has your knowledge and background and whatnot still I wrote a post about this too, and still was trapped without options. Yeah. And the thing is that gets me about a lot of white autistic, like, advocacy, is that unlike Black people, and this is the next point I want us to really kind of talk about too, is like, we don't have to be autistic to be changing ourselves to be to have to move through these systems. Like, we are autistic, so we change ourselves in a lot of different spaces, including in these systems. But as Black people, brown people, Indigenous people, we have to move through these systems in a different way than white people. Like, if you can be autistic and pass, the fact that you can say that we have advocates here who are like, I was diagnosed so late. And then, like, 20 years old, 25 years old. And I'm sitting here at 44, like, fuck, like, come on, then. Like, really, I would have loved to have been diagnosed at 22, instead of being burnt out in university, So, but the fact is that you can't have people telling me about, like, ABA's abuse, blah, 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 from the lens that they're coming from, which is not one of, like, being as linked through systems with these oppressions that we have and our experience, background, whatever, and having to navigate these systems and try to change them at the same time from the inside. You know, like we still, as Black people, have to, are we're getting ABA, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever the fuck, like for living, for breathing, for existing in this society. Like if anybody knows how to dismantle a system from the inside out, it's going to be us, because we live it. We've always lived it.
Always. Ever since we set toes on this earth,
everything
right here,
since I was, I'm
here.
a transracial adoptee. I'm a transracial adoptee, which means I was raised by white people. I was raised in a very small little town by all white people. There were no brown people. There were no other Black people. There was no indigenous people. I didn't even see an indigenous person. I didn't see a Black person until I was like year 9. Like, come on. You aren't going to tell me. I didn't do official ABA. I just got my ass kicked like all the time.
Hey.
Yeah. Like that was some pretty damn good ABA. I learned quite quickly how to fucking like act the parts that I needed to act. So, and I feel like I did it pretty good because, I got diagnosed when I was 44. So something, but, there's a lot of other reasons too. I'm not going to say it's because my upbringing, but, like my point is that like, you can't see it. They just can't see the whole picture because they don't have to look at it. They don't have to look at it. They don't have to think about it. They just, see like, oh no, they won't accept me as I am. That's abusive. That's abuse.
Word. We've been doing this with generations. Been telling them for generations.
Like I got nothing here. Like more like I just.
That you're not wrong, because it's like we don't have to be disabled to
that part.
Be under the thumb of these violent systems.
Exactly.
Period. The disabilities that we have, it makes it worse, makes it more complicated, but we don't need them to be a victim of these systems. And Black people, brown people, indigenous people have been screaming about this stuff for years, generations, telling you this is what we face, this is what we deal with, this is where we're at. That this society has not only exacerbated disabilities that might have already been within us, it created and assigned disabilities to our bodies. At the same time. And then they kept doing it until you have the system of ableism that you have today. So the ableism you have today is because of the racism that we've been dealing with yesterday. And I'm trying to figure out, why are you people following these people who don't know what they're talking about?
Like, make it make sense.
The following irritates me because it's like it's not like a creative or like thoughtful or critical thinking that's going on. It's like a call and response. I say this to my following and they go out and they spread that like vile negativity around the community. And I don't understand how the following is there in the first place, but I kind of do, because these shocking things, both from parents do it too, sometimes professionals.
Oh my God,
people, they have this like shock and awe, and they get validation from that following and views, and with those views comes money, with those views come like a career, a lifestyle. But the people who are getting that vile negativity out, they're not getting any money for it. Like, you're just giving these people like attention, and they should have little attention. They are not. There's no, I don't understand the when I say slacktivism, it's because there's really no thought behind any of there's no experience for sure.
That's the moment.
I work in the field. I'm on a on my state's developmental disability council.
Okay.
In the Developmental Disability Council, every state has one. If you guys in the United States want to join, you can try to apply. But I'm saying this because those developmental disability councils have an equal number of parents, an equal number of developmentally disabled people, and then a small number of professionals. And it's really weird how when we have to speak in person and see each other and learn about each other's choices mainly, or what we're going through, none of us have this like blah 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 is abuse. Like when you're really working in this community, you will see that we do have to get along because we create the policies in our states for disabled people. We have to find ways to satisfy the families, make sure the professionals have a bit of say, and make sure the disabled people have a bit of say. And when it comes to these advocates, quotes
Oh
in
my
the
God. I don't even know what to call them. Because
yeah,
it's so violent. It's so violent what they do. And it's like this advocacy online just only goes towards a certain type of autistic as well. It excludes so much of the rest of the community. In stuff like this, like in these kinds of posts of just inflammatory stuff. And I don't, and the thing is like, because they're done by like predominantly white voice people, then or white autistics, then it's like this it's like it amplifies even farther, even louder.
white
You know,
speaking autistics with body control.
White speaking autistics with body control. Yeah, that part. And it's just I feel like it's doing us all just a disservice, even on just a whiteness level of like how white people leading communities is just a thing that is not always, how do I put this?
When we saw
Like,
that post, we all said, okay,
difficult.
this is the widest post I've ever seen in this.
Yeah, like it just cannot. Like, it's because it's the supremacy culture. As Tiffy and I, what we were talking about the other day, Tiffy had said it. Like, I was like, what people like? They don't really have a culture. They just like, there's this like stealing, like, and then making it like it's theirs or something. But it's really this supremacy culture, and it's like, how can you build community whenever it's always about yourselves? Like, always about you. Like when it's like, oh, but it's me. Like it's my problems are the worst. So I have to talk about my issues, my problems. I've centered myself in this. I had a bad experience with ABA. So this means that it's abuse for all of us because I didn't like it growing up. Or, you know, and please, for no one, please don't put words in my mouth. I know that it's abusive because we live it. Like, I would like to be myself, but in my own, you know, assessment, I could literally go, and this is what I say whenever I'm meeting my kids, you know, the parents of my kids, you know, at the school. Hi, it's great to meet you. Oh yeah, it's so wonderful to chat today. Like, what the fuck? Like I've had to do that even before I knew all of, you know, what I know now. And so, what I was saying, it's like, we are always thinking about like a community and who is most marginalized, because we've been, although, like, you know, I feel like non-speakers and minimally speaking, you know, get like, we're such a bad rap, you know, such a bad deal in this community for sure. Like, I don't even exist. And it's just like, the fuck? Like, that's the worst for me. That's the worst for me. That
and non-speakers.
These people that have so much power, either infantilize, is that the right word? And then speak on behalf, like, but speak nonsense. But speak nonsense.
It's
Because you
always
can't do
amazing.
community whenever you're thinking about yourself and your own issues. You're looking at the most marginalized. Everybody's last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to pass on because I'm ranting. I know, is that this is what people don't understand. When the most marginalized in a group, in a community, have all of their needs met, that means everybody can have their needs met because they're not as money or most or zero or whatever it is as the most marginalized. Because if we can make sure that their needs are met, then there's going to be stuff for everybody. Like I just can't. And I keep saying it, and I just don't feel like it hits quite right.
It's
That's
like
my point.
Yeah.
capitalism.
I know. Like I keep saying it over and over again. Let's please. Oh, sorry.
It's like capitalism. It's like hoarding culture. Like billionaires will hoard their
Mm,
money and not let it go down to people who
mm.
need it.
White
It's
culture.
the same thing. This is just a little microcosm. This community is just a little microcosm of
Oh
this.
my God. For real. Sorry.
And you can always tell, like, when people who say they're advocates have no interaction with any non-speaking,
Oh,
no
for
interaction with
real.
any type of marginalized autistic people. Because,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll just use this as an example.
Mm.
There are some autistic films that we have watched in other languages from other cultures. And those are dogs. Like, this community will say the absolute most crap about foreign or uh,
I wrote a post on extraordinary attorney Wu.
yes, that
On that.
dog,
That
but
pissed me right off.
character or an American character, or somebody who is quirky or unmasks a little bit in the show, you know, they're talked about like they are the best representation of autism there is, and they will dog everything else that isn't like them. Like,
Yeah.
where are the non-speaking autistic representations? Where are the representation of people who have cultures that won't even acknowledge their autism, even if
Mm,
they
mm,
don't?
mm, mm.
Where are these representations? You guys love all these other things,
Oh my God.
but you
I
hate
can't.
the other type of representation for autism, and you make it so um, clear, or what's the word? Like, um, you
Mm.
unveil your
Yeah.
prejudice. You
Yeah.
unveil how you don't give a
Yeah.
crap about anybody else in this community.
You know what really pissed me off about that point? Because I wrote a Substack on this. I know Tiffy wrote a post on it as well. Was the attorney Wu was Korean, and this one really hit me really hard because I spent 2 years in Korea in like 20 years ago. So I already knew that this was a big deal, minus any kind of like, what was, the what is that whenever they're really, really smart? That's I forget what that's called, but they do that for autistic characters sometimes. They make them really super smart. Um, but everything else in that character, like I'm not going to make whatever. The point was that they there was posts that blasted that whole show, and that was white autistics were blasting it. Like Savant, thank you. They were blasting that show. Oh my gosh, this is just not a great example of autistics, blah 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 blah, and putting it in comparison to that other show, is it Australian, the teenager, the
The
teen show,
Heartbreak High.
Heartbreak High. Yeah, and I got nothing against the fact of whoever plays the role. I know that they're autistic, whatever. I don't have any. That wasn't the point. The point was that everybody was saying this white person, this white autistic is such a better example. It's such a great thing. It's such a, and it, it was like, slow down, your racism's coming out. Like, this wasn't the point, because they could not see Attorney Will within that culture. And on top of that, there was East Asian and Korean, Southeast Asian people in the fucking comments, explaining and sharing their points, sharing why this mattered, sharing why it was important to them. I've been there. Like, I lived there for 2 years. I already knew why it was important, but I'm not speaking because it's not for me, right? And they were ignoring them. They weren't even talking to them. They were not engaging them. They were not pinning their context. They were not acknowledging their own, like, racism that was happening there. They basically were ignoring these comments. And that shit was like, I had to write about it. It was in my Substack, because it was not on. And I realized that it happens a lot. And it's not right, because that view of autistic isn't right, because it's not the white view of autistic. Like, we can just put it just like that, like, because that is as clear as it was. And it was coming through all these comments, while they erasing the knowledge of people who it was made for. God.
I just want to point out, now that you mentioned that, the autistic presentation differs by culture, because
Thank you.
every culture is different. So the way autism looks or appears as autism or not autism is different in every culture. And I really feel like maybe if people don't understand the culture, that they shouldn't, just automatically assume it's a terrible representation.
Yeah, it's true. That's the point that really got me. So in these comments, you're seeing people who were going, I'm East Asian or I'm Korean, and this is what, about the culture, da 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 da, and they're just ignoring it. Like, even the people who were putting the comments out, or who were made the post, weren't even acknowledging or doing anything to be like, oh, I didn't even think of that. Like, these are like, even I think within, like, I just remember like thinking about like Black, like stims, for example, like how they differ, even within like the Black community, versus like what gets normalized. Even some of them are different, because of the culture, because of how we're raised, because of the things that we were told that we couldn't do. Yet here we are going, because this person is this can't be, this isn't autistic, and I'm sorry, it just gets me. Sorry. Any other
I think
thoughts
the
on that?
main point of this live, or why we call this live, is to really talk about advocacy. Somebody said badvocacy.
That's clever.
Talk about that in the context of ABA. We're not necessarily actually talking about ABA at all. We're talking about this very shallow advocacy, where you can tell people they don't really work. They're not curious or interested about anything that doesn't look like them. And I mean look like as in how they present autism to society.
Yeah.
Or how they present as autistic.
And that damage that causes, though, I think that's, for me, is the damage that it causes. And not just whenever they take something that we've written or that we've riffed on, like even this post that I read at the start, and then bastardized the fuck out of it. But like, just the advocacy and how it, because the lens is so narrow on themselves and their own issues and their own traumas. It's Tiffany, that was you that wrote this, Tiffany, that talked about people talking, sharing from their wounds. And I haven't forgotten that idea, because that comes through so much on here. And it is, there is something else too about like the need to do this work, to do like the inner work, because so much of this advocacy is based around, you know, living out of their wounds. Like we got wounds, we got a lot of wounds, but I think like as black people, but you know, I think as white people, you all like, so don't think that you don't have wounds yourselves. Like y'all were killing yourselves well before, you know, taking black people off the continents, you know, like, and the trauma here is, I don't know, it's huge. It's huge. And I just don't feel like, yeah, they see that. And I think that it impacts what they feel like these advocates, whatever we want to call them, feel like they are sharing. Like they don't see how it's just poisoning the whole thing.
I don't think that they have a firm grasp on the terminology that surrounds this work.
That part too.
And it's like, if you're an advocate, you're not advocating for yourself. You're advocating for someone else. And so they don't listen. So that entire post was, oh, they heard the stuff that we were saying, and that's why they included it in that post. But it was to say, oh, I hear what you're saying. I just don't care about what your needs are. I just don't care about
my needs.
What your fight is, what your struggle is, what this is. So I heard you. I heard you enough to tell you that I'm going to dismiss you. And that's what a lot of the advocates do in this space. You have to know that it's not about you. It's about someone else. There's a lot of things that my children need that I don't need. There's some stuff that my youngest would need that I'm just kind of like, I don't know, but I'll still fight for it because this is what he's telling me that he needs.
Exactly.
This is what he's saying he needs to access this world. They're not understanding that advocacy does not start and end with their experiences. They have to move beyond themselves. They're not willing to do that. And if you're not willing to do that, why are you here? Because they're just making my job harder, because I have to freaking clean up after the mess they do when their followers come over to me. And so I know that's like more work for us. You know, it's just, they don't see that. They don't understand that. And honestly, I think they do understand. They're deliberately not getting it. You know, and they're just concerned with themselves. And so like the things that I would like ask them is like, there's 4 members in my house. We have each had a gun pulled on us, or the threat of one, and the threat of one. It's just like, you know, and so we've had police called on us for walking in our own neighborhood. We've had police called on us because I took my son to the restroom with me. This was at Special Olympics, a place where you'd think they'd understand, but they didn't. It's a lot. It's we go throughout this world, especially in this country, Black people, where white people will treat the police as their personal care line. You know, to get at us, and
take
for sure
that we are.
And I'm just like, what do these advocates, since they are claiming to fight on behalf of all of us, and to include my children, you know, what behaviors do they feel that we can perform consistently to reduce that harm that would come to us, especially considering the skin itself is maladaptive, it's provocative, it evokes an emotional response within the people that I come around.
Exactly.
I look dangerous. I wore a hoodie the other day, and I was asked to like pull my hood down because I look suspicious. In the Dollar Tree. It's just like, So what answers do they have for me on that? You know, what would you teach us? How would you teach us to protect ourselves in those situations? What methodologies would you use? You know,
Yeah.
how would you teach us to generalize that from one setting to the next setting? What do you think you would do in that? Like, what's the answer to that? You would use a whole lot of ABA. I know it. I know you would. You
Yes.
definitely would.
Because we had to do it anyways. We
Exactly. You know, so it's a lot of them not listening and not thinking to the members of this community. It's a lot of them thinking that that I wrote a post one day, and in one of the comments, it was on Facebook, it was a long time ago, and someone who was Black and autistic going on there, and they said something that stuck with me so long. It was, they felt that white advocates treat us the way that they treat us because they don't even really believe that we're disabled. It was something like that, to that how they framed it, and it's stuck with me ever since. And I look at things so different right now. I can't quite tell how that hit. I can't quite put it into words. The feelings that the comment evoked. I wish I could find that actual post and that comment and what I was talking about. But it was just like over and over. We have to keep cutting ourselves open over and over. I was like, dang, look, I bleed too. I'm bleeding right now. I'm showing it, but we have to keep doing that. We have to fight so hard to be heard here. I get trashed on because I use too many words, because I'm verbose, because my quotes are too long. I have to be, because y'all don't freaking listen.
Yeah.
I can't get away with saying ABA is abuse. Done. Mic drop. 2,000 likes, 400 shares. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't be shallow. I can't be
I can remember
little,
when you
like, I can't do that. I have to explain myself. I have to go above and beyond, and then a bit more, so that you can kind of understand what it is that I'm going through, because a lot of times they're just automatically not listen, automatically dismiss me, automatically just, so yeah, a lot of words. Yeah, and then like I'm sitting here and I'm talking with you two in DMs and stuff, and you're like, yeah, you can just cut it down if you're framing it or something. You tell me like cut the post down, because I'm like, yeah, it's a lot, but it's like you have to put everything that you can put out there and to reach people, and that stuff is hard and it hurts, and
every time
you want to try and reach people and connect with people, and the biggest thing that always astounds me is the parents of non-speakers or minimally speaking, or those who have the, what do you call it, with the body
dyspraxia.
Those who have more support needs, those who are like my son and stuff, those and their parents and stuff, they relate to us so much. They see themselves in our stories so much. And it's because they see it, and it's because the further removed they are from dominant culture, the more likely they are to be treated as close to how we are being treated. So that's why they relate to what we're saying. It's not, they're not relating to the blackness of it all. They're relating to the other stuff, because they are treated closely.
The shared marginalization.
Exactly. And those are the people that they leave out too. And they can be white, and they don't think about them. And they come to us in droves, because it's like,
it's true.
We are trying to think about not only us, but them as well. Like, you have to think about everybody. That post didn't think about nobody.
But they didn't think about no one but themselves. The things that they could be able to do and say no to, you know? things that they needed or not, that straight up from their wound. And the thing is that like, we cannot have advocacy from like, we're all wounded, we are all hurting, we are all struggling. We cannot, like, that cannot be the way forward. Like that doesn't bring people together. Like hate and whatnot, it doesn't solve these problems that we are all dealing with. It doesn't get to the root. It really doesn't. I'm sitting with what that quote that person said about like, they don't believe, white people don't believe black people are disabled. And that's thing, or the autistic is as bad or whatever. And I'm just sitting with how freaking hard we have to look the part of being okay. And we walk out the door and we're like, it doesn't matter if we're autistic or not. We walk out the door and we have to look the part. And you know what? If they had to go out every damn day and like, this is beyond masking, like, come on, and let's just not talk about masking and code switching as being the same thing, okay? Let's not do that here. We will stop that nonsense.
Don't do that.
Today, don't do that anymore. Stop doing that comparison. That is just ridiculous. But if they were doing half, 3/4, this much of the effort that we have to put in every day that we walk out our fucking door, you know, maybe they would look like we'd have to do, you know, like but they don't think that, because they don't think about all the other things that we might come into contact with depending on where we are and who we're around. They don't think about CPS. They don't think about, you know, getting shot. They don't think about any of these other things. Having people following you around because you're shopping. Like, they don't think about any of these, wearing a hoodie, you know? They don't think about the impact of any of those things. We think about all of them and then some. We were looking at everyone and watching everything. Nobody knows how to dismantle these systems, exist within these systems while dismantling them, like Black, Brown, Indigenous people do. There is a reason why we are still here. There is a reason why we have joy. There is a reason why we have resilience, because we know how to live too. Like,
it's part of our culture to be resilient. And I want to say something about trauma and advocacy.
The trauma people should guide their kindness in this advocacy work. Also, which is abuse in these scenarios parents, especially parents of color, find ourselves in? Is it ADA or our children getting taken and put into foster care where they are physically assaulted daily?
Amen.
Fly or get shot by police? Which is worse?
So for all the abuse that we are being accused of for the choices we make, they don't go farther than that claim of abuse. They don't take it a little farther. They don't pull it out. They don't pull the scenario out to what we have to think about in the back of our head every single day. Like, if my kid gets put on, isn't able to comply, then they'll be put into not only the BIPOC prison to pipeline. I mean, preschool to prison pipeline.
Yeah.
But there's another pipeline that I have a video on that. The special education to prison pipeline.
Yes.
There are more pipelines as disabled and
Black,
marginalized, Black, Hispanic, Indigenous, poor. No matter what your race, poor. There's a pipeline for everything, and the pipeline is what's more abusive, what's more harmful.
Yes.
Keeping our kids out of that pipeline any way that we have to, is what we call love.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing too, I think it's really important to put that there is like, this is about like, again, the systems as well, because school, people are like, I freaking hate it when people go like, sorry, this is one that gets me. oh, our school system is broken. It's just broken. The hell it's not. It's working just the way that it is planned to work. It is working absolutely brilliantly, actually. It is got everything. The pipelines are going right swiftly, wonderfully. It's picking out the Black and brown and indigenous and Latinx kids and making sure that they do not have access to higher like education unless they are extraordinary. You know, it is it's doing exactly as it's supposed to.
Like
So
chaos. Like we'll send these type of people to this type of life. We'll send these type of people
exactly.
to this type of life, and that's
So
what the
we
sorting.
got to stop saying that, you know, like people got to stop saying that and realize these systems are working very well. So saying that, you know, oh, I'm going to change the school system. No, please don't. No, we need to be looking at doing everything differently. That's my content. A lot of it looks at ourselves, us as people, as looking and seeing our own humanity and seeing our own humanity and the things that make us, you know, not like aligned with whiteness. It is like, even in stuff with ABA, whatever, it all comes down back to whiteness all the time. And I just, oh, yeah.
And not white people. Let's not get it flipped.
Yes, please.
Or
Thank you.
let's
I'm
not put
saying
words in our mouth.
whiteness.
It's not white
Yes.
people. It's whiteness, which white people just happen to have the ability to fall in line with more.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you can't be black and have whiteness, or it
Yeah.
doesn't mean you are fully involved in whiteness even if you're white. Whiteness is a separate thing from the people.
Yes. I like to think of it as something that's quite tangible, like whiteness, as if something that we can grab, hold, touch, you know, and
Yeah.
that some people are closer to touching and grabbing than others, but it's still in all of us. In Black people, like this skin folk and kin folk, like let's all remember that too. Like we have had some difficult run-ins with some of our own, you know, in advocacy. We
And
won't name
recently
any
in the news,
names.
I don't want to bring up certain people. He's not in our autism space, but in the news there are
Oh
certain
God. Yeah, I know who you're
Black
talking
people
about.
that are invoking more whiteness than most.
We have all anti-blackness in us, you know what I mean? And this is why we're looking at ourselves and looking at, you know, what we can be doing, you know, for ourselves and within these systems. Somebody asked a good question, and I do want to turn that to us now about like, so what is good advocacy? So what do we do in these spaces? How do we navigate this? Because for many parents, for many kids, for many adults, you know, Tiffy, I'm still thinking, I don't know why. We've known each other for so long, like it feels like, because I know so many of your stories. I was still thinking about you like coming into the chat and being like, I got diagnosed again, autism at like 30, you know, whatever, 30 plus.
Oh yeah.
And they what did they recommend for you?
Like ABA,
Yes.
right?
They're like
all
and they
that
told me to do ABA.
Hey, look at that.
30 plus years old, second
Yeah.
diagnosis, ABA for you. And you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Thanks.
Exactly.
But there it is. It's like, it's just right there. But here we are. It's like, we're saying, how do we do this differently? How do we navigate within these systems? Because some families are being told 35 hours a week of ABA, you know, or whatnot. How do we navigate these systems and do what we can to protect ourselves, our families, each other from, whiteness, harm?
I think that first that has to be the question that we have to be asking and trying to answer, instead of going around saying everything is abuse and then offering no type of alternative that has no remnants of said abuse, because everything they offer still uses the principles. So it's like, so I think we just need to, we need to answer that. We need our advocacy needs to be centered on asking the right question. And so if we're
I
not
do have
asking the right questions, we're not gonna get the right answers. And
Mm,
yeah,
mm,
I do have a YouTube video coming out at the end of this year about advocacy and good advocacy and bad advocacy. But I do want to say that if you don't ask
mhm,
questions before you judge, say, if you don't ask questions about like, okay, so what are the services that you have access to before you
mhm.
start? Why are you doing ABA? Or
Yeah.
what's your story? Like, what's the school? Like, asking questions is how you figure out how many people have what and how many people don't have what.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
um, so I would say asking questions first builds that knowledge, and that knowledge base is where you can actually help families for real.
Yeah.
You can
all
help
right,
them if they're in the ABA, you can help them uh, take advantage of what they can, get rid of the harm, and do what they need to do so that ABA is not abuse for them and their family.
Mhm.
correct.
Going back to like, Tiffy's story with the socks, it's like, it was like what they needed was to tape the socks on, you know, but
Exactly.
without being told like any other options, there was no way to be able to support that, because to support that need, and I feel like that's kind of just leaves people hanging, like holding a bag, and then like it causes like more harm. Like, how can I just, it makes no sense to me. How can you support and say something like that inflammatory, whatever the word is, and then leave nothing, and then leave it in a space where there's just more harm and no choice?
All right.
Like, give people, like, if this is my only option, if ABA or whatever it is my only option, how can I go through this as aware as what kind of questions do I need to ask as possible
Exactly.
for my child, so I can do this, because you don't know the other outcomes by just saying ABA is abuse or whatever the hell is going on. You don't know what else is out, what else they're going against, or up against. That's
Up
the word.
again,
Sorry.
yeah.
Thank you. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying anymore. Cutting their ear.
Because you got to think about that. You have to think about that, like as an advocate, and when I'm writing a story, and when I'm doing I do majority of my work in real life. But when you sit down and you're thinking
Yeah.
about what it is you're about to do today, or what it is you're about to fight for today, and you got to ask yourself, if I knock this door down, can everyone enter it? Right? Can they
Amen.
get through this door if I knocked it down? Or does someone need help in this way? How
Mm.
do I get them through the door? Can they get
Mm.
up to the door, but they can't twist the knob? Okay, what can I do so they can get through the door? Remove the knobs? Have no door at all? Like, what is it that I need so I can get everyone in the door? And then not a lot of people that's like
Mm.
focusing on that, or like asking it, or
Mm.
thinking about the fact that the families that are considering ABA or have their children in ABA, they
Mm-hmm.
don't have children like JoJo. They have
Yes.
children like Aiden. And
Yes.
so you got to think about what it is that those specific families are up
Yeah.
against, and what those families need, what they're going through, what
Exactly.
understand
Exactly.
the intricacies of insurance, understand how stuff varies from state to state, understand that even with
Culture to
some
culture.
states having mandates and stuff, some families live in areas that don't have a good
Mm-hmm.
speech, don't have good OT, they don't even have ABA, or they have it in a state where it's not even covered. Like, a lot of people even go around talking about it's not covered by all insurances. It's just
Yeah.
not. So you have a lot of families who just have nothing at all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you got to think about, if you're getting rid of something, what can be in its place to help these families? So a lot of people aren't
Yes.
thinking about that. How can they access that? What type of child does this person have? What type of
Yeah.
what
Background.
is
Everything.
their support? They're not giving any consideration to impairment. Well, the things that my youngest can access, my oldest cannot. So a lot of the solutions and things that I see floating around, it's not gonna work for my son.
Yeah,
So what
Montessori was
solutions
my
do you have for
favorite.
him? Yeah, that's a big one.
Oh
So it's
yeah,
just like you're always
Montessori.
thinking
Christ,
about
I
that.
love when people throw that around.
I have
Montessori.
That's a big one.
had clients that I have
My kid
consulted
can't even go to Montessori.
who have been upset because so many kids get kicked out of Montessori
Montessori.
schools. So many autistic kids get kicked out of Montessori schools because they don't fit, even though, and it's not just non-speaking autistic.
No, it's not. Like
No,
my
it's
kid
not.
did not make it in. Like my kid would get kicked. My kid didn't even get into one. So like I
Yeah,
tried. You couldn't even get
Jojo
in.
did.
yeah. If you have
He did
ADHD,
last. So
My kid would not
ADHD,
have
a lot of
lasted.
those kids get kicked out.
I, I, I think it.
The
Sorry, you're
a
cutting
lot
out.
of a lot of ABA programs are taking ADHD, kids with ADHD, and doing full comprehensive 35 to 40 hour ABA for ADHD. So it's 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 the system. It's spread.
Yeah. In a lot of, I just saw in the comments, and a lot of Montessori's use like ABA practices, and of course they do because they got all those kids working independently by themselves. There's only one thing that they can do work at a time. Like, yeah. So that's an issue. Tiffy, am I still on?
I see you.
Okay. I think Tiffy's is coming
Yes,
out. So Tiffy's okay.
we have
Um,
some questions too. I
mm.
don't know. I know we said we do that at the end.
Oh, do we have some questions? Okay, cool. Because like, yeah, we can do some questions. I don't know where Tiffy is. I hope.
Can you access the questions, or is it just me?
It might be just you, but
Do you see the question mark at the bottom?
yeah, no, yes, there are questions that I can see. I guess I can't. Can I press on them?
Yeah.
Like the first one is, as a teacher, I want to be able to help families. So
You said let me back in. Tiffany, I need a request for you.
while you're doing that, I think that in schools, like my book is about this actually, where it asks us to really look at the barriers of what we see with the kids that we work with in schools and what we can put in place to support them. I think essentially if we're working at creating environments that are more trauma responsive, trauma informed, that are more culturally responsive, that are also taking into account designs and like as sensory friendly as possible. I think that we're making quite a good leap if we're able to look at the ways that we design our learning environments in ways that we are, crystal clear about instructions, the ways that we are, where's Tiffy? Tiffy coming back? And the ways that we are able to look at various ways of communication and understanding that behavior, however that looks, and it's out of an character or whatever, is a sign that there is a need or a skill or a developmental thing, that a delay that needs to be met, rather than something that is about us or our towards us. I think is always a good start. And I think that it's also about working in community too. We're not any child's savior, and I don't think that we should ever or have her put ourselves in that position. there are things that we can do. And building relationships, I think, is also a key one as well. That we can't be, you know, you added me as a moderator and it won't let me in until I'm not a moderator.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, if I do, yeah. So hopefully Tiffany's coming on. But yeah, my book looks at this as, yeah, it is actually about, it's never just ADHD and looking for the child behind the label. It's coming out in 2023. Oh my God. And it really looks at, you know, each chapter where there is, you know, it's never just ADHD, but a couple of the chapters do deal with kids that have ADHD, but also there's a chapter that of a child that is has PDA, autistic. That's kind of more my flavor. And then one that's minimally speaking as well. Tiffy's back. And one is minimally speaking as well. So yeah, and it really is like, and more that we can see the child and understand the behaviors as being barriers, like whether it's cognitive, social, or developmental, then the more that we can reduce those, I think is key. And relationships do matter. Yeah, that's all I can think about for now. And another question, does somebody have another question?
Now.
Yeah, I just answered
Oh,
that first one about
I know.
it was about as a teacher, and I was just thinking about that.
That's not me. Not a teacher.
Nice to meet you too. Yeah, so there's a lot of ideas there, and I think it's difficult. And that's why I also think that teachers, you know, we do get stuck in like trying to do all of the things and everything and wear 100 hats. It's whenever our job to do that, you know, and it's never a job to actually, you know, be the savior for any child anyways, because, you know, we're in community. And families need to know who's in their communities as well that can support as well. It's so important, you know? So we need to think about that. Other questions?
I do want to say something about community. I think that marginalized communities actually are communities. Like we have to be to get by, whether disabled or, you know, racially marginalized. I think that we are community builders culturally.
There's another question here is, what are some good resources of information that you have all found helpful? Is this in regards to, like, I don't know, information about just, I don't know, information about what, like ADA, advocacy? Could you share any research to learn more about this? Like
Yeah, yes. There
us?
are I would say if you guys want like the best information that really would affect all of your
Okay, thank you. Advocacy. They were saying about advocacy too.
Oh
So I
yeah.
was looking at
Oh
information.
yeah. The best way to get a resource about advocacy is to start with following and listening to non-speaking autistic people of all ages.
Amen. That was one of the best advice you've ever given. And for me, first, you've given me so much advice, TJ, to be fair. Oh my God. TJ's so damn knowledgeable. But that was, that opened my eyes. Huge. Huge. Danny Loves Words is one of my favorite accounts. Like, you can tell. But Danny Loves Words is one of my favorite accounts. And I love that they do the Leo and Bloom every month. Oh my God. I learned so, and like, just, you get such a huge array of voices. I love that. I love that account.
Yeah. I want to say like, I was raised in the community by non-speaking autistic people. I didn't know much about autism until my non-speaking autistic friends and people taught me about autism. That's where I learned how to advocate. Everybody should start with learning advocacy in the autistic community, because you'll learn, like we said, the foundation are like the more marginalized people. Like if they are getting what they need, all of us would get what we need. I learned the most about my autism from non-speaking advocates.
Yeah.
And
I call it Damon as well.
I do have a highlight on my profile page that just says non-speakers because I couldn't put a lot of
Nice.
and I think there's it's growing daily, but it's people who are on Instagram who are they are guiding their own Instagram.
Okay. Cool. I think that's a good part. I learned so much from non-speakers. I also think about, obviously I think about Black autistics. There's some great Black autistic homeschooler parents as well. Oh my gosh, was it Motherhood Phasing? I forget her name. Is that it? With oh my
Chris,
gosh, yeah,
Ronan and Chris.
with Rowan. Yes, I freaking love that page. Like the stuff that, and just because it also what I love too is because Ronan's has been using his AAC for what ages? Like, wow,
Yeah,
we've seen his development. And he's so little. I know he's like 4 or 5, and he's been used, and you can see his development. Like I've been following them for at least a year. Like, and yeah, and what he's done and what he's doing now. Oh yeah, Ron, brilliant page. Oh my gosh, who's Sneak? Sneak's parent, Sneak's mom.
Walk one day in our shoes.
Yes, that was that. Yeah, Sneak is good. I love Sneak. Oh, Sneak is awesome. Yeah.
And notice that when asked for resources, we give some parent accounts too, because they are a part of the community.
Yeah.
They will be, until their kids can communicate, they will be guiding and listening to us and trying to make sure that their kids and their loved ones, not just kids, but adults too, their loved ones are that they're taking in what we are giving. But that does not help if a advocate is running them toward toxic parent groups. So we do list parents as resources because they teach us about ourselves as autistic people as well.
Yes.
I learn a lot from other parents, not just from my parenting, but about my autistic self.
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's so true. I feel the same. Where is another question that I can't actually? Oh, here we go. I am ignoring those ones. Okay. Why do you think there are seemingly openly autistic Black men? Do you think there are some there?
I think they mean seemingly none.
None. And yeah, I think so too.
That is a that's hard because in a lot of racially, culturally marginalized spaces, there is a need to dismiss disability,
particularly Black,
as a protective thing.
Yeah.
I made a post saying that I don't agree with people saying that they don't want their kids to have a label. I don't agree with that, but I understand it.
And yeah.
That label in Black communities hits different.
Yes. Yeah. That part. It's different to be Black anyways. Be Black with ADHD, Black and autistic. There's just how it's
you can't be weak as a Black male. You have to and in society disability doesn't, to the outsiders, project that.
Exactly. And I think that's another reason why we need a lot more advocacy that is centered around like the most marginalized, because we don't see ourselves in the mainstream. We don't hear our stories in mainstream advocacy. When I first diagnosed with ADHD like 4 years ago, I didn't see myself at all. You know, I'm 40, you know, I'm with white people, and they're sharing these stories that are not like mine at all. They talk about, and this is something that I've written on, I put in the book, they talk about like these kinds of diagnoses, and they split them up by gender, and they don't gender when there's more than just two, everyone. And then they don't look at all of the nuance that's included in that whenever we're looking at race. And I think it was, Tiffany, I think it was your account, was one of the, when June 2020 hit and our accounts blew up, and I'm looking for other Black neurodivergent people to follow, there was only about 5 of us, literally. And I'm looking at, and it was probably the first time I'm following yours accounts when I started to see like myself in autistic side, in the autistic community. I never thought about that before because we weren't there, and because there is nuance. I grew up with white people, and there's still the nuance there because of being Black, and it's different, and we cannot have these conversations. It's bad enough that we gender presentations, like that is already another thing. I'm like going for that for an hour, but the fact that we cannot have these conversations without thinking about how race plays a part, not just Black, it's different when it's Black, Indigenous, when it's East Asian, when, you know, and it's brown, it's all hits a little bit different in different spaces, in different environments. And we're just talking about, oh, it's a male. What did they say about autistics? Like, it's like male and female. No, it's male. There's like male brain and female brain, or there's like
Extreme male brain, I think
it's one of them. And it's just like, the fuck, like, I can't have, if I do not have an, like, no, like, I'd be masking the hell out of that. I've got to. Do y'all remember when I had like a little like mini meltdown in the DMs? Oh, I have them a lot, but this one was when I started watching the Good Doctor. Do you remember when I started watching The Good Doctor, and I was like, what the fuck is this shit? How is that person a doctor? I can't even believe this guy's a doctor. And he like, how does he sound like that? And I'm thinking like, if he was Black, there was no way that person would be allowed to be a doctor and sound like that and do that shit. And we would be masking so much better if we were doctors and doing that. Like, bar none, that would never be allowed. We would never do that. Like, I was really upset about it. And I was like, what is going on? And obviously the Tiffany's were like, Sandra, it's, you know, yeah, you're right. Because this happens. But like,
yeah, don't have a meltdown over this, because
every week there's some whiteness bullshit that's like every other day. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I'm sorry what the question was, but like, yeah, that I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. We couldn't see it. We couldn't see it.
Yes.
You
Did
know?
you see in the comments from Ella Thompson?
Oh, Ella Thompson, yeah. What Ella's saying.
What are the major red flags when following white autistics that they are holding racist and elitist white ideals? What phrasing and words could I look out for as?
Honestly, I go into it thinking they all like that. And then I have to see something that proves it otherwise. And then I used to think the other way. And then you get disappointed a lot. So now I just go into it thinking they got to prove to me that they ain't.
Just
like
for
that.
the bonus factor.
So, you know, I'm just going around and I can't tell you if there's any one phrase or anything that they.
Well, we talked about it.
The ABA abuse part, yeah. You can deal with that
part is like red flag.
you know, but
just some things I think too is I think stuff that's shamey, blamey. You know,
yeah, that's definitely
I
a
think that's red
flag.
flaggy. I think
Very.
that's, yeah, I think
I
that's
think
red
that
flaggy.
we should. Well, I know this is what I do every time I'm considering following someone. I kind of stalk their page a little. I go
Mm,
through, I read their stuff, I read their comments, I read their if they have any extras like material and stuff. I think we all have something out there, like some YouTubes or some
mm,
podcasts we did, or I have ebooks. We each have like something. If they have something extra, and I go and look, I go and read through that. I go see, I get a feel for it. I see if
mm.
they amplify voices outside of their own. Like, what am I looking at? Um, uh, does it look like they um are accepting, you know, perspectives that are different from what they're used to? I look at the people they follow. That's a big thing.
Oh, the people they follow.
You
I'm
gotta
sorry. Yeah.
you gotta look at
I
the
don't,
people that's also influencing them. Who are they gravitating to? They could be you could find them to be the best type of person in the world, and then you see the people that they're following, and it
Yeah.
doesn't jive well. Um so
That's
it's
a
just
good
like a
point too.
big deep dive into that person, because while there might be some obvious phrasing and things that, they might see that's just like obvious red flags, a lot of times stuff just sneaks up on you and you
Mm.
don't even know until later on, kind of like TJ with this one, why we're here. So you don't
yeah, that's
know
exactly
until
true. I
it.
was like, I love this creator, guys. And y'all were like,
Mm.
And I
Exactly, the
was like,
whole
I hadn't
Yeah.
time,
seen
just
anything.
like, I
And
don't
then I
know.
saw the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. I gotta say, like, and I would say even now, like, TJ's pretty good at like TJ has this like, I don't know, like when TJ's like, I something's off about them, or like I didn't like this, like it's always spot on. Like I really appreciated that for us being friends and you being able to do that, because that's always been spot on about things. Because I am a grudge holder, and like I will sit with this, I will sit with that, thing. I could give people other chances, but like no, like when sometimes people like really, uh, yeah. And I
And
just, yeah,
that's what I don't get a lot of. I think a lot of times we don't trust our gut. Like, if you
yeah,
see that first thing and it gives you
yeah,
like a pause, trust that. Because there's a lot
trust
of
it.
times when
Yeah.
someone will come to me and they'll be like, dang, it took me like so long to see that, but I thought I saw it like in the past and I saw it, but I just didn't think anything of it. And they wait for that really big, obvious thing to hit.
Yeah.
Once that thing, that little, whatever
You
whatever.
know what else I'm starting to get a little bit about too, I'm gonna be honest, is like the call outs.
Yeah.
When people are like, go to this person's account, call them out, sort of thing like that.
Yeah.
Because you know what? That is not accountability.
Yeah.
That's
That's not
bullying.
my flavor.
That doesn't work. That's not it at all. Like real accountability is like done in community. It's done like outside these pages.
Yeah.
So if I'm following somebody that's like, yeah, I really have to sit with that. Like, because I don't do that often, like that kind of calling out, the getting all your followers over. Was Tiffy, it was you that got tagged and dragged, or attempted.
Attempted. Ain't nobody
Or
gonna
put on
drag.
list, or
Attempted.
put on ban list.
Drag.
Fucked around and found out. Let me tell you, they did.
Y'all not gonna drag me. Y'all not gonna
It's
drag
not
me.
gonna tag and drag, and that person did not get followed.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
Like,
tagging.
no, we don't tag and drag, sort of thing like this. So
I,
those
I do
those kind of things. Yeah.
I do want to point out that
We've been here for 2
um,
hours.
there is some things you can look for, and this again is in one of my videos in December coming up. But are they one-sided advocacy? Do they just talk about how much they hate parents, or do they just talk about how
This
much
bird.
even for parents, like do they just talk
And
about how much they hate
the
autistic
opposite
people?
is true
Mm-hmm.
too.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
talk immediately. And are they really like talking about people, or are they talking about systems? Like, are they criticizing systems, or are they criticizing individuals?
Yeah.
Because you can criticize individuals, but like, what is that really going to do? How is that helpful?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That is all true.
Because we're trying to create long lasting, tangible, meaningful change that will
Yeah.
not occur if you're just attacking people or individual groups. We want to see what you want to do
Mm-hmm.
for the whole of this. What do you have to offer to change the systems, the mindsets that maintain these systems? Like, that is the type of stuff that you are wanting to look
Yeah.
for, and
Yeah.
those are the ones you want to follow. Those are the voices that you want to follow. Those are
Amen.
I would start with the most marginalized of
Always.
a community and then branch up um, from there, and just do your research. Y'all go dive. Me too. You'll dive
Yeah,
head
we
first into
are.
somebody because they made a really cool post, and then
Mm-hmm.
like 2 weeks later, you realize this is not it, and
Mm.
you
And
know,
you know what? It's worth saying, like, we have all been on these platforms and caused harm too. And I also want to point out, it is how you respond to that as well. Like, because there is, you know, ways that you can respond to, like, because you're going to cause harm, you know, like,
right,
especially as a creator, all, you know, it's going to happen. It's how are they responding to that as well,
correct.
you know?
Look at
And
how
I
they
think
respond.
that is really important too. um you know, and are they doing this work outside of it, or is it just like, you know, how you know when you see a bad one, you know, like, it's not, there's no responsibility, it's all just kind of lip service nonsense, and there's nothing that you can see or know about that's different. And I think that says something too.
Yeah,
And it's
and
like
you
they're
gotta
saying the
respect.
same talking
Oh,
points
Mm,
every single time. They'll make a post about those talking points, and then they'll answer people using the exact same thing, like just with
yeah.
the word change. Like, there's no like, I don't want to
Oh,
say creativity, but there's no like critical thinking. Like,
yeah.
you can see like people are like, um, okay, maybe okay, you've opened my mind, but instead they're just like saying everything that you said is wrong, or
Yeah.
anything that is counter to their point has no value to them whatsoever.
Yeah.
right.
I had another thought. I don't remember. Okay, let's move to the next question. Anyone got a question? I got a question. Am I looking at the questions? Oh
I
no.
don't know.
Oh my God. I'm like trying. Oh, there they are. Okay. Oh, there's so many more. Did we answer the question about what, yeah, we did, about Black men. Where do Black people or African Americans that are neurodivergent go to find community for parents and children? That's a good one.
Yes,
So, because TJ, you know some
Well,
communities online.
yeah.
DJs.
TJ, you know that. And then the next one would be about, okay, we'll just do this one. Then there's one about combating ABA in schools.
So, for Black neurodivergent people to find each other, we might not have local ties, but we can find local people online and build an online community and space here. Um,
Hmm.
that's where I have met new neurodivergent people, is online first, and then then I kind of met up with the people who've been in my area or close to my area.
Hmm.
So that's I don't know outside of online.
Hmm. Some Facebook groups, maybe. I don't know. Facebook groups can be kind of touch and go. To be fair,
Yeah,
because some of them can be right violent.
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. How many more questions? Um,
It's 6 o'clock, guys.
yeah, I feel like we've been on for ages.
We
And
have
I
to.
talked a lot about in schools, you know, so I don't think I'm going to answer that one yet now because I think
It
I
could
talked
be
a
in.
lot about school.
It could be in another one.
I can be another one. We can do another one about like all things school and all
Yeah.
of that, homeschool, unschool, school. Yeah,
Today was about advocacy, but we're going to do this monthly, once a
yeah.
month, and um, the title is "What It Is Still Blackly Autistic ABA Is," and then we're going to deep dives on separate topics. So today was advocacy, and next time maybe school.
And we're hoping to still get like we didn't get we're hoping to find a platform I think that will be like
Yeah.
have captions, have the
Yeah.
ability to
Like a
share.
practice run, trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
But
have
we're gonna.
so we can have oh my gosh,
The
what we
ASL interpreter didn't
ASL
come, but we
yeah.
will make sure we have an ASL interpreter and captions next time.
Yeah, that's really important to us. Like we all work really hard on our accessibility on our stuff, on our posts and everything. So that is something that's important for us. I know. Yeah, and I think that one of the things I think is important too for us too is that we do want to have other people on with us, don't we? A space to have other people on. Black, brown, indigenous, Asian, East Asian, both I think predominantly though, right? I think to get like, I don't know. I was just saying that out loud. What do you guys all think?
Yeah,
I
that's
I
Yeah.
would
that is absolutely.
definitely love to have Auntie Animus on. For sure.
Yes.
That,
Yes. Joy. I would love to have Joy on. Oh my
yeah.
God, Joy Johnson. Yeah, I would love to have her chat.
My friend Jackie, deaf BCBA, she's autistic too, and
Mm.
so I see her, and she would be great to have on as well because um, her her viewpoint is from deaf autistic viewpoint.
Yeah.
I would love to hear that. I would love to hear that. I have like 100 questions. Yeah, I think that this is kind of what is necessary. I think a part of what is necessary for advocacy and just in our community to just maybe broaden people's lens of what's like what else is happening, what else to think about in our communities, like to maybe start bringing us together in advocacy and actually listening to marginalized and the most marginalized voices. So we all know like what we, you know, what we need to be looking for like going forward. That's what my kind of thing is. That's where I'm at. And that's also 11 o'clock here. And I'm like,
Oh yeah, I forgot you're in the UK.
and I'm in the UK. Yes, I have this accent that is North American. I am in the UK right now. So, but I'm going to be in Orlando in like 12 days. Everyone drive down to see me.
Now you're gonna be in Florida. I'm good.
I will be in Florida. I know. I'm a bit nervous. I'm not gonna lie. Don't say gay. Yeah. So yeah, but no, I'm seeing my best friend, and that's gonna be fun. So I will be stateside in like 11 days.
I'm coming to Florida.
Come to Florida, come see me. I'm like, can we drive to Texas? I don't know if I want to drive to Texas. So. Okay.
Yes, you do.
Texas. I want to see you. I'm gonna give you my address where I'm gonna be. So you send me biscuits. You send me cookies. That's what I want.
Cookies.
Fake me
I ain't gonna
stuff.
send you no biscuits.
TJ, can you drive down to see me in Florida? No. So wait, go see me in Florida.
It is possible. I don't say nothing's impossible.
Oh, I know. That's a bit of a drive, though, isn't it? I don't know how long the distance are. I need to stop talking now. All right.
The soda flat.
Did you guys see what Jersey said?
Which
No.
one?
Jersey here?
Hey, Jersey.
Jersey's here. Hi, Jersey. Oh,
I'm pretty sure Jersey means I'm like above you, TJ.
No,
Elevated a little bit higher on the list.
We won't put Jersey on the spot and make him lie.
No. Jersey know the truth. Jersey know the truth. It's okay. Jersey know.
Okay, we need to get off so we don't ruin
We do
our
need to get off. We were so excited. I'm so glad that we got to do this. I'm so glad to be able to chat with you both. Like, just seeing your faces, like, besides just your words. It's, yeah, it's been a real pleasure. It's been just, yeah, it's been everything. Yeah.
Thank
Y'all,
you.
like, I just want to say one more thing is that, like, what keeps me able to post, what keeps us able to keep coming back is this group, this YouTube for
people.
me, for sure. Yeah, it's been, you guys have no idea what it's like
That's
to
why community is
the
important.
whiteness that comes across the pages on a daily, and to be in a space to remind each other that we're human, to remind each other that, you know, that shit was like ridiculous, or, whatever. Like, it's just, yeah, it keeps me going, keeps me sane. It keeps me, that's not what I meant to say, keeps me
Grounded.
grounded. Thank you. Because that saying is ableist, and I'm going to apologize for that because I could have used a better word. Yeah, it keeps me grounded. Keeps me grounded.
We
Thank you.
definitely have a strong community with us three, and all of our communities
Yeah.
that are with us are strong. Like we all have strong. Our following are not like angry. They're not gonna go attack people. But
Yes. Yeah.
like our following are people who want to make change.
Yeah. Who want to do better? Who want to be better? Who, yeah, who want to be in the nuance and the messiness. Just want to be human. I think that's a lot of our following. I'm very grateful for all of you for being here, and just, I'm grateful for you too.
All right.
Okay.
I love you, beautiful ladies.
You too.
Good
We will
night.
chat.
Thank you for
Good
everybody
night.
that bought badges and for everybody
Yes,
that
thank
came.
you.
Thank you.
Good night, all. How
Night.
do I get
Oh, love
out of here?
you, but bye
I'm gonna
everybody.
end it.
How I
I
get
don't know
out of
how to end
here?
it. How do I get off?
Oh.